Hello and welcome back to PSN News. I'm Marielle Reese. With me tonight is Olivia Estright, a news editor for the Daily Collegian. Olivia, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Now, Olivia, you are one of the reporters for the Daily Collegian. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization?
Absolutely. So on the Collegian, I'm one of the news editors. That means I manage about 50 different student reporters alongside my co-editing partner. And the Collegian itself has so many different branches that people can get involved in. So there's news, multimedia, sports, lifestyle, and photo coverage. We also are trying to get more into social media, which is definitely up and coming for student media outlets, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, we're pretty much a major news outlet, and we try putting out content almost 24/7.
That's awesome. How would one get involved or join the Daily Collegian?
Yeah, so we have applications going out in both summer and spring and fall semesters, which
Cool.
is awesome. So if people do want to get involved, they can follow us on all of our social media accounts and just keep an eye out for when our applications go out and they go live. They tend to go live right after both involvement fairs and just at the beginning of the summer, just to keep people in and up to date with when things are going out.
Um, So what made you decide to become a reporter for the Daily Collegian?
hmm I love talking to people, and
It's great you're here then.
oh yeah, it works out perfectly. So I love talking to people, and I love writing and just being able to share other people's stories. So when I first heard about the Collegian, I was looking through, and I'm like, oh man, they're like a legitimate news outlet. So I kind of assumed in the future, if I wanted to get into journalism and if I wanted to go down that career route, that would be the best way for me to sort of dip my toes in the water. And normally I like to be on the digital and print side of things, not broadcast. So that was just kind of a way that I could get more into the print side of things. So we do put out like papers weekly. So I get to have a hand in actually like creating a paper, which is really awesome too. And so I guess from this point on, I'm just going to be telling stories for the rest of my life, and I'm here for it.
That's awesome. So I understand that Dawn went on this past weekend. Did you attend it?
Yes, I was there for around 35 hours.
Wow.
But 4 of those hours were visiting some friends I knew on the floor, so I got to go and support them. But it was a fun weekend. It was long, as I'm sure most media outlets know. But I'm really glad we got to do it. Definitely an interesting experience.
So did you write a story about your experience there and
Mhm.
what was it about? Or
Oh, absolutely. So the Collegian itself actually put out around 80 different videos and stories for the
Wow.
weekend. The editors, we all got to kind of take charge whenever we were low on content. So we got to write blogs, columns, stuff like that. One of my favorite columns I wrote was about my friend Phoebe, who was dancing. Phoebe is one of my best friends, and she's not a narcissist, but she's confident. So she was very confident going into the weekend, a little nervous, which is normal.
Mhm.
She ended up standing for all 46 hours, but
Wow.
3 people on her floor passes, including myself, had issues getting down onto the floor with the digital line pass. Um, so I decided if I couldn't go down there, I might as well write her a column supporting her. So I did write a little column up just on the importance of supporters going to Thon and just keeping the atmosphere going and just making sure the energy is just as high as it could be for all 707 dancers for the
Wow.
entire weekend. So I think she appreciated it. She might have been a little delirious reading it, but it works.
That's awesome. So I also understand that you have a podcast at the Daily Collegian.
Yes. So Phoebe and I are actually the co-hosts of a podcast called It's Not That Deep. So it all started when one of our multimedia editors, Sophia, she was like, "Hey, you guys are good to like start this podcast up. Let's get it going." So we ended up creating the podcast, and it was so much fun. We just started sort of talking about we both have sort of an anxiety type of deal going
Mhm.
on. And I think a lot of people do in college, especially with just a different atmosphere and the transitioning in. So Phoebe and I sort of became really close over discussing and sort of disclosing like, oh man, dude, this is getting to me. So we started a podcast pretty much just talking about all the negative aspects in life. And then we turned it into just something that's like, it's not that deep. because so many things in life aren't that deep. We put so much focus and emphasis on all of these issues going on in our lives that in reality, in 5 years from now, we're probably not even gonna realize are that deep. So we started the podcast, and now we're going into the hub. We're sort of going out in the wild more, and just hoping that we can reach more people, and just hoping that it helps at least one person along the way.
That's awesome. So everyone, if you see Olivia or Phoebe there, watch it.
Come talk to us. We'll have a good time.
So what was your latest episode about?
Oh, yes. So we speed dated in the hub, which was
wow.
a very good time. We got no suitors.
Oh, no.
We're both still very single, but that's okay because it's all good for the plot. So, you know, we were just hanging out in the hub, speed dating. We allowed people to pitch themselves to the world. Granted, the world is just the 206 people who actually watched it, which is so valid. I can't blame them for that. I wouldn't watch us either. But you know what? It's not that deep.
Well, it's fairly recent, right? Like when
it is.
When did it start? When was the first episode?
So we started at the beginning of, oh man, I think the middle of last semester actually, and we've just been going through. But we just started going into the wild, so we get our names out there.
Wow.
So we've done podcasts on unsolicited advice, which is always a good time talking to Penn State students because you never know what's going to come out of their mouths.
I know what they're gonna say. That's
they
right.
continue to surprise. I'm like, oh wow, you really just spilled like the most traumatic moment in your life in the middle of the hub. I'm like, well, you know, if you could say it in the hub, you should probably say it to a therapist. But you know, Phoebe and I are here if you need to. So that one was another fun one that we did. But yeah, it's been a really great time just working with everyone and just seeing a different side of journalism.
No, that's awesome. Would you say that like you prefer recording the podcast to like editing or writing articles, or like what's your experience now that you have like kind of your hands in both of those?
Oh yeah, that's so valid. I still think I'm stronger with writing and editing just because sometimes I say things that are a little too out of pocket. And I'm like, ooh, we have to tell our editors all the time, like, yeah, if you need to cut that, just cut it. It's okay. But yeah, so I would definitely say reporting, editing is going to be my strong suit in the end. But it's been a blast either way.
That's awesome. Well, what would you say to anyone that's interested in either recording a podcast or writing for the Daily Collegian?
Yeah, totally. I would say the biggest thing is just, it's not that deep. You might as well go out and you might as well try it because in the end, you're only going to get as far as, you're only going to put yourself, the effort it takes to put yourself out there is a lot. But as long as you keep trying, it gets easier every time. So you might as well just try it. It's not that deep.
Now, that's all the time we have tonight. But thank you, Olivia, for coming in tonight and sharing more about the Daily Collegian. Up next, AJ and Angelica will bring you the latest news from across the nation. Stay tuned.